Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Olin Buchanan.
Nick Savage.
What's up? Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you know what day it is? It's possibly the best day of the year.
No, it's actually the worst. It's Valentine's Day.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Oh, then what are you talking about?
You guess.
It's Friday.
Well, yeah. What else is going on today?
It's the opening of baseball season.
I'm not even talking about that.
All right, you're just going to have to
It's Flannel Friday.
Oh, Flannel Friday.
It's Flannel Friday.
You know, I have to admit that the only thing that went into me choosing to wear this shirt today was it's warmer than typically, and it's outside, it's colder.
Well, it's a Matthew Dawson created holiday, by the way. So
Matthew Dawson.
Yeah, Matthew Dawson. Anyways, it is opening
day. Oh, I thought
day.
you meant because it was Valentine's Day.
Well,
and this is your first Valentine's Day as a married man,
is it not? Man. So happy Valentine's Day, Maura.
Did you do anything differently?
Well, we're both working tonight. I'm going to. She works at the Association of Former Students, so she's got a dinner tonight, helping out donors.
And you're not having to pay for it. Nicely,
exactly.
Good job.
I'll be at Bluebell Park.
Yeah. So did you do something last night?
We went on Wednesday. We went to the Republic. Had a good dinner there.
The Republic, man,
happy Valentine's
paying you
Day.
Better than they're paying me, obviously.
Happy opening day to all the Aggies out there.
I like opening day.
Yeah.
But I hate Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day should not exist. It's a made-up holiday by the, well, it's not even a holiday. It's a made-up day by the Hallmark greeting card just to make guys look bad, you know.
To weed out the herd a little bit,
Well, you know, I've said before, the worst thing that can happen to a guy on Valentine's Day is if, like, his girl, woman, wife, whatever you want, is the only woman in her office that doesn't get flowers.
That's a good point.
You know, so you're not buying the flowers for her. You're buying flowers for everybody else.
Yeah.
For her, to everybody else to see it. And then you're just now getting over, you've just now paid off everything for Christmas. And now they're going to hit you again.
Yeah.
And these flowers are at about $120 now. And then it's just, you know, too much. Fortunately, I have a wife that doesn't need all that. So we went out last night.
Perfect.
You know, when you get older, Valentine's Day doesn't mean as much, right? Yeah.
I got you.
When you get older, like, you know, being good in bed means you don't snore.
This is TexAgs Live. We're sitting by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. He's spending a little bit extra time with his dad. Everything went well yesterday. So, David, praying for you, and we'll see you on Monday. OB, this is the Rollo Insurance Studio, like I said. This is the Go Hour. We're presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Normally, we're over at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone, or you and David are at least, but take a little break. It's too chilly outside to be in the cool zone this morning.
It's cool everywhere.
So we're going to be
right here. But you know what's cool about holistic planning?
Tell me.
Well, they can help you with your investments. They can help you with your taxes. They can help you plan your estate. And part of planning your estate would be investing. They they can help you, if you are so inclined, invest in pro sports teams. So that's pretty holistic.
Yeah.
And a lot of planning.
Well, if you want to know more, make sure you go to investinprosports.com today. Again, that's holistic planning. OB, we got a busy go hour, so we're going to go a little bit shorter in this first segment because We got John Nabors, Arkansas insider,
Yeah,
coming up.
I know John.
After this,
He's one
we're
of the
going
neighbors.
to talk a little bit of Arkansas basketball, preview the game coming up tomorrow.
No relation to Jim Nabors.
After that, Roy Philpott, ESPN play-by-play man. He's called a few Aggie games.
No relation to Jim Nabors.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Are there any famous Philpotts? I honestly don't know.
Roy,
of course, yeah. And then at 8:50, we got Around Aggieland with Kay Naegeli, probably the most famous out of those three.
and I would go out on a limb and say she too has no relation to Jim Nabors.
Yeah, I don't think so. After that, though, 9 o'clock hour, we got the baseball bunch for an entire hour. We're going to preview Texas A&M versus Elon opening series. We'll have Brauninger, Scott Clendenin, and Richard Zane in here in the 10 o'clock hour.
Elon's been in the news a lot lately.
He has. He's been busy.
They ought to change their name.
Yeah.
They have changed their name before. They were originally the Fighting Christians.
Really?
Yes.
They're the Phoenix.
And now they're the Phoenix. And they could be the Muskrats.
Sure.
Or the Musketeers.
That'll work, I guess.
They should think about that.
Where do you want to start, Obi? We can talk Aggie hoops. We can talk Aggie baseball.
Big game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Big game tomorrow against Arkansas as A&M wants to continue. A&M still is in the SEC championship race.
Oh, yeah.
And at the very least, they want to stay in that contention to be in the top four and get the double bye in the SEC tournament and continue to enhance their NCAA tournament resume. And it doesn't look like on the surface that Arkansas, they're about 15 and 10, something like
9,
that. 15 and 9. Hopefully 15 and 10 tomorrow. But that's a surging Arkansas Razorbacks team. We'll talk about that a lot later. But 3-4 in their last 4 games, and the loss was a 4-point loss to Alabama.
Yeah.
Playing good basketball up in the hills.
Yeah, they're averaging 76.7 points per game, shooting 46.7%. Like you mentioned,
They got
in
a
their
7'2".
Yes.
I think he's from Croatia. Croatian.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Croatia's a nice place, man. I need to go visit there.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about Croatia.
It's right there on is it the Aegean Sea or Adriatic? One of those seas over there.
I'll take your word
between
for
them
it.
and Italy. A lot of great beaches in Croatia.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I need to get over. And obviously, they have tall basketball players too. He's 7'2".
Yeah, A&M will be going for their 5th straight win.
5th straight
on another winning streak. Like you mentioned, a good opportunity to bolster their resume. And depending on what bracketologists you look at, some people are saying they're in discussions even for a 1 seed.
Really?
Yeah. So that's going to. That's going to take a couple of upset wins down the stretch.
Well,
right?
they got Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn still on the schedule. So if they could sweep those.
I see you're looking at Lenardi. He still has A&M as a 2-3,
seed.
I believe.
He has them as a 2 seed, playing Bryant, which I think is up in Rhode Island, which also has really nice beaches. And he has them in Wichita, playing Bryant. I wonder I don't know Bryant's mascot. I wonder if they're the Bears.
Bryant Bulldogs. I don't know.
Bulldogs?
I don't know.
I like the Bryant Bears. The what? Oh.
What a pull. Didn't know I had that. That was Callie Garner over at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, and I guess it's a good time as ever to bring her in. Callie Garner, you got some Aggie softball updates for us because Trisha Ford keeps rolling. So enlighten us.
Yes, they do. They are over in Clearwater, Florida at the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational. Yesterday, they defeated Wichita State 9-1 in the opening game to improve to 7-0. They had a total of 13 hits and 7 RBIs. Sydney Lessentine won the game as on the pitching staff, and they have allowed the 10th fewest walks, yielding only 26 free bases through 7 games. And they have a 10 a.m. first pitch today against UCF for their second game in that invitational.
Yeah, Sydney Lessentine, true freshman, kind of, at least through two appearances, 2 starts, maybe a little bit of Emily Kennedy in her. Maybe. And Emily Kennedy picked up her first save of the year yesterday. So, 7-0 for the second straight year for Coach Ford.
I mean, they're really good.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Diamond Sports at A&M, gotta love it.
A&M and this spring, it's like again, we saw what the tennis teams are doing and the track's doing well. I always say they're doing what A&M's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Be great at everything.
Absolutely. Aggie baseball. Are you going to take that in at all tonight?
No, I'm not. I've got an early game tomorrow, and I have a personal just policy. I don't go swimming until June, and I don't go see baseball until probably May.
It's fair.
I'm not going to. It's going to be warm. Baseball to me is a warm weather sport. The weather is not warm.
I don't think it's ever until it gets like June. I don't think it's ever warm at Olson.
Well, May.
Bluebell Park.
I've been there in May, and of course I was last June. I was at for that Oregon series. I was there, and man, now that was some warm weather. That was extreme heat. Actually, it was almost nuclear. So hot, but yeah. So it's a personal policy. I don't attend baseball until it's warm.
Okay.
The weather's warm.
Fair enough. Let's go behind the glass, talk to our producer, doing a good job. Filled in for me yesterday and got the call late yesterday and came and subbed in for me. So, Cade Bickham pulling the strings. How are you, sir?
Yeah, morning, y'all. And, it feels like it was like I was coming out of the bullpen when you called me in for this morning. It was I got the start yesterday, and then I'm coming out of the bullpen today.
Well, that's
You're
what
like
you
Emily
do.
Kennedy.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you do for Aggie Club baseball, right? I mean, you're closer, reliever.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I my specialty is coming out of the bullpen anyway, so that works out perfectly for me.
But especially at this time of year because he's from Colorado.
Yeah.
So this weather probably he's used to.
Go out there in shorts and a tank top.
Yeah.
Throw a couple innings. Cade, you got any baseball thoughts for us? Basketball thoughts? What's on your mind?
Well, I am super excited for baseball. I saw, I don't know, go check out the TexAgs predictions for the baseball season on the site. But I was kind of shocked. I was the only person who predicted that A&M would lose less than double-digit games this season, which it is pretty crazy because it's a long season. 9 losses would be super wild, but I feel like every year there's always one or two, maybe 1 to 5 teams in college baseball with less than 10 losses, and so I figure, why not A&M? Why not A&M this year?
Yeah, it's just I think at least my reason. Yeah, the SEC, man, it's just so brutal. It's so
the SEC
crazy.
is ridiculous. Yeah,
You'd probably take 2 and 3 in every SEC series right now.
Oh yeah. You win every SEC series, you're probably going to win the
right.
conference.
And you play 10?
I think so.
10 series, 30 games.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be 10 losses. You'd take it and feel great about it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Coffee Talk as well, presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to texags.com/coffee. And we're going to double up the sponsors, OB. We're going to run our mouths real quick. 3 things we want to see, brought to you by Braz's Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks, On, and Hoka shoes, located in Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. Olin Buchanan, what are 3 things you want to see this weekend?
I'm going to be at the basketball game tomorrow morning. So I want to see the Aggies get off to a fast start.
Okay.
Because so often they don't. But I do want to see them get off to a fast start. And then I want to see them have a strong finish. I want to see that complete game. So maybe that's one. And along those lines, I would love to see Solomon Washington show that offensive outburst, that wasn't just kind of a fluky thing. And I would like to see Solomon Washington have another strong offensive game to show that he is emerging as another offensive alternative. And, I've been really, I expect Wade Taylor to do well, but I've been really, I think we all been really impressed with the board work that Henry Coleman's been doing. So, more of that.
Yep. I'm going to give you 2 basketball thoughts and 1 baseball thought.
All right, let's hear it.
Love to see the free throw shooting above 75%. Because they're averaging 68% from the charity stripe as a team this season. I feel like every time they shoot well from the free throw line, I think Luke put out a tweet about this the other day. They shoot
70%. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to win the game. So ideally that happens. They're going to be in a really good spot. I want to see a 5th straight, and this is something I didn't know until you pointed it out on Monday. I want to see a 5th straight game with a different leading scorer.
Let's see, that might be Henry Coleman.
Coleman or Obaski, I feel like, are the two
Obaski,
best
okay.
candidates.
Every now and then, if you're not careful, a Hefner or a Garcia will jump in there.
Yeah. And then baseball thought. I want to see 8 home runs, at least 8 home runs through the entire weekend.
Oh, not for the
not like one game. No.
Okay.
No. 8 home runs through the entire weekend. So that's like 2 a game plus an extra one.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I don't think so.
I've been saving this joke for a long time. I don't know if I want to use it. I want to
be ready to go to a quick break here, Kay. Let's hear
it. Okay. Well, yeah.
Come on, you can't.
I was just saying, when you look at that lineup, because of both what they set a school record in home runs last year as a team, right, for a single season, and Brauninger and Zane are both telling me that this team could hit even more home runs. And I was looking at it, and I was looking at the home runs total for Lavalette last year was like 29, and Grahovic had like 22, and I think they brought in the Cash from Texas Tech, had like 15 out there, and I'm like, man, there's so many big swingers on this team. I can't believe Schlossnagle left.
We'll be right back with John Nabors, Arkansas Insider. We're going to talk some A&M Arkansas basketball. We'll be right back. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
What you know about Pantera, OB?
Pantera?
Yeah, they're from Texas.
Oh, I was going to say, well, they have good bagels.
Oh, I don't get that reference.
Panera?
Oh, Panera Bread. Yeah, good one. Also, Matt St. Angelo, you'll be happy to know Olin Buchanan laughed very loudly at your text that we will not read on air. So this is TexAgs Live.
John Nabors liked my joke on Panera, though. I saw him. He was laughing.
I know. I see him down there. This is TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. And we're going to go out to the Buppies Catering Hotline and talk to John Nabors, Arkansas Insider, preview this Arkansas basketball game coming up this Saturday. John, good morning, sir. Thank you for hopping on with us.
Hey, it's always good to talk with you guys over in Texas A&M, where it usually ends up in a loss for Arkansas. It's one of my favorite things, so it's great to join you.
Hey, before we get into the game, I understand you started your own. Explain to me what you're doing now, because I know you started a new business, correct? Inside Arkansas, that's a new deal?
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's called Inside Arkansas. We're just trying to follow the lead of you at TexAgs. But no, it's basically just a digital platform where in Arkansas, as far as podcasts, we do live streams, do shows, do pretty much everything on the digital platform nowadays, because it seems where so many things are going. So it's been awesome. It's been growing rapidly, and we're taking over the world, or at least the state of Arkansas Razorback media, is what I like to put it.
John, and this is actually one of my favorite things from your old podcast. Do you still do the thing where you list all the things you hate about every opponent that Arkansas is going to face?
Yeah, so I do it yearly. I can only do it one time.
Oh, okay.
And so with A&M, I already did it in football season. Can't do it in basketball season. But, that's my yearly tradition where because there's always new things happening to make me hate certain teams. But, I still do that, and it'll happen again next year, I am sure.
All right. Also, when we're actually going up there. So
Yeah. No kidding. That's going to be awesome to have that game back on campus.
I lived in Fayetteville when I was in the 7th grade. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. I was a woodland cowboy.
There you go.
That was my school.
Same
Oh,
right
same?
here, baby.
Oh, well,
That's
how
crazy.
about that?
Well, cool. Well, anyways, John, let's get into this ball game. Arkansas started off the season a little rocky, but definitely been playing a lot better as of late. So just what's caused that turnaround?
Well, I think what's caused the turnaround is them simply figuring out how to play together. And there's just been this really good follow documentary on Vice that's been following John Calipari and the first season around. And the first episode debuted this past Monday. And it was really interesting because you hear him talk in the press conferences, at least the very few press conferences that he does. In the early part of the year, talking about, hey, we're going to figure this out. The team, we haven't practiced much together because there's been injuries and everything. But when you saw in that documentary him really talking about in depth, this team just does not play well together. And they didn't for a long time. It took them forever to try to figure it out because of injuries, because of guys being sick, guys being out, and obviously losing Boogie Fland, their star freshman, for the year essentially, or at least close to the year. It really threw a lot of things into the mix. And now they're just finally getting settled in. They have talent. I mean, the individual talent is there. But now they're just finally starting to figure out who does what well, have the confidence in each other, and playing really well. And to me, it's better late than never, I guess. But it would have been nice to have it happen a little bit earlier in the year. But to me, it's just simply they know how to do it.
You said so they're playing well now. Are they playing well enough, in your opinion, to keep this going and get into the NCAA tournament? And what do you have to, and it's two-part, so what do they have to do to beat Texas A&M, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, that to me, first off, yes, I do believe they're playing well enough for that. If you look at the majority of the bracketologists out there, and I know that's not the know-all, end-all, be-all, but if you look at the majority of them, all of them have Arkansas either in the NCAA tournament or at least right there on the bubble with a lot of opportunities ahead of them. And luckily, for a team like Arkansas, the SEC is really good. I don't know if you guys knew that. It was in all the papers this morning. The SEC basketball conference is pretty good. And because of that, they have those opportunities at home later in some games, whether it's against teams like Texas, teams like Missouri, Mississippi State, and everything. But going up against a team like A&M, I'm gonna say this, guys, and I've said it before, and I guess it kind of fits because of you bringing up why I hate teams. But I really hate watching Texas A&M basketball because I hate that brand of basketball. Watching it, at least, I feel like it's boring. I feel like it's nauseating. I feel like it's frustrating to watch as an opposing fan. But it wins. And that's the thing, and that's what you got to give it a credit to, because Texas A&M is they're a team that will get a bunch of offensive rebounds. They're ones that get to the free throw line. They have Wade Taylor, who's been there for 18 years, it seems like. They got experience. And Buzz Williams is a really good coach. And so that was just always been something that's been strange about playing Texas A&M is they're just such a different team than what you normally face in the SEC. And for me, it's going to come down to a couple of things. One, Adu Thero, who is Arkansas's most physical, powerful athlete and presence. He had a really good game against Kentucky, and he's their best physical guy out there. And he's going to have to be able to handle the physicality. He's going to have to be able to handle getting inside and everything. He didn't play well this past game against LSU, but I think it's going to come down to him. And also, it's going to come down to the surgence of Big Z, Zvonimir Ivicic. Try to say that 3 times fast. Dude is hitting threes. He's the best three-point shooter Arkansas has, and he's 7'2". He's hitting 44% of his threes. He had 25 points this past game. And if he can continue to get that going and be able to be that threat from three, it's going to open up some other guys. So it's going to be a very tall and very tough task. But I feel like if Adu Thero and Big Z have great games, I think Arkansas can get out of there with a win.
I'm going to ask you a David Nuno question. David likes to ask us, and it's a good question. So typically when A&M plays, their opponent has a guy that is not among the leading scorers, not among the top 3 or 4, right? It was Goodine against Oklahoma, and then it was Blue Kane against Georgia. Somebody that you don't expect, it's averaging about 7 or 8 points, just goes off. So who is that from Arkansas that is the guy that's maybe under the radar a little bit, but if you're not careful, will come out there and really hurt you?
I'm glad you say that, because I feel like Arkansas is the only team that ever has that guy that just goes off on them in Bud Walton Arena or something, where they've averaged 2 threes a game, but they hit 7 of them. So I'm glad that there's another team in that. But for Arkansas, honestly, I could see it being 2 different guys. The first one being DJ Wagner. He was the number 1 player coming out of high school a couple years ago. He was at Kentucky's first year, transferred to Arkansas. And it's not that he's been bad. It's just there's not any particular thing that he's just been amazing at. He's had to take over the point guard role by and large because of the fact of Boogie Flan being out for the year. And I think he's done a really good job of facilitating. But as far as scoring goes, he's averaging 10 points a game, but it doesn't feel like he is. But he's capable of going off for a big game just randomly. I mean, he's done that so far this year, where you look up and be like, oh, that dude has 17 points. How did that happen? So I could see him happen. Also, the true freshman Carter Knox is another guy. He's a starter. He's averaging 6.8 points a game. But he's a guy that's capable of hitting threes. He's done a really good job in some games. He's good at rebounding. But he's a guy that, again, you don't expect a lot out of him, but then there'll be some games that he just comes out and surprises you. Those would be the only 2, but let's be honest, guys. Arkansas only plays about 6-7 guys anyways, because they don't have the depth. So you're pretty limited there. But I could see one of those 2 guys coming out and having a big game.
Depth is actually a strength for Texas A&M. Do you think that's going to be – how much of an issue can that be? How much of an issue has that been for Arkansas when they lose, and do you think it'll be an issue tomorrow?
Well, here's the thing: it's been I wouldn't say it's an issue in any particular game. It's just been an issue as the season has gone on. Because again, I mentioned Boogie Flan being out for the year. So you lose a guy like that. Big Z had an injury where he was out for a few games, or at least not 100%. You've had Adu Thero, who has been sick. Cal Perry's been sick. I need to feed these guys some vitamin C. This is the sickest team I've ever seen in my life. They always have some illness going on. So, but overall, it's been a problem for Arkansas, but yet it's not been a major issue, and a lot of it has to do with this team does a good job of not getting into serious foul trouble. I mean, there'll be some times where it happens, but they've been really good at keeping that in perspective, which who knows, maybe this game changes in that. But if you I'm telling you right now, this has been the biggest problem for Arkansas has been their bigs, because you have Big Z, who's now resurging, but he had some problems before. Trevin Brazile is still on the team, and he's not a guy that, a couple years ago, they were counting on him as a starter and one of the leading scorers. And now they're just looking at him as, hey, just come in for 15 minutes or so, go 2 of 3 and be good. But Jonas Adu is another one that transferred from Tennessee, the other big man. He's dealt with injury all year long, and he's starting to get a little bit better, but not totally there. So at guard, they're fine when it comes to depth and everything. But at the bigs, especially because of the injuries, because of the type of style and type of play, if you get one of those guys, especially Big Z, in foul trouble, you're just going to be able to go at Arkansas inside, and it could be some problems for them.
John, got about a minute left here. Just really quick, what has been the perception so far this season of John Calipari in his first year there in Fayetteville?
It wasn't very fun for a while, I can tell you that. But I think most fans are putting it into perspective of yes, this is not good and everything, but they're getting better. All our Razorback fans want to do is, at this point, just get into the tournament. And I think when Cal came in the first year especially, most Razorback fans were just feeling like, hey, get to the tournament, maybe make some noise. That it wasn't a national championship right now. And they're still in position to do that. So I think people are fine with it. They've been more frustrated about the certain players and maybe the roster management. But Cal still, his approval rating's high. They're going to be fine. He can't do this again next year. But it's been quite a change from Eric Musselman, I'll say that, for all perspectives. But it's been pretty good so far.
John, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy this weekend, and go check out Inside Arkansas. John does great work there. So appreciate you hopping on with us.
Appreciate you guys as well. Don't forget baseball season starts today as
sir.
well. We got a fun time out there. So have a great one, guys.
Yep, you too. That's John Nabors there on the Buppies Catering Hotline. We're hitting a break here, but before we do, as a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Dave's Pizza. That is at 10:50, but right now, caller number 12 at 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or one large topping pizza from Double Dave. Serving Aggieland since 1984, Double Dave's Pizza, serving up your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledays.com and your favorites are on their way.
Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season.
Welcome back in. TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. We're here inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. Got Olin Buchanan with me. And our next guest, hopefully I have a similar job to him one day. ESPN play-by-play man.
That's a great guy to aspire to be.
Roy Philpott is joining us on the Buppies Catering Hotline. Roy recently called a few Aggie games. He saw A&M against South Carolina and Missouri. Doesn't have them this weekend, but I mean, he's had a great perspective of the Aggies all season long. So let's go out to that Buppies Catering Hotline. Roy, good morning. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Yeah, Nick, Olin, good to be with you guys. Hope life is well on Valentine's Day down in College Station.
Well, it's, as you know, I'm sure it's opening day for baseball. So that's college baseball. That's a little bit, more important around here. But anyways, we won't put down.
I was listening to you earlier on Sirius Radio, Roy, about Valentine's Day. You took care of it earlier, right? Because you're busy tomorrow.
Well, I am busy tomorrow. The wife and I talked about it a few weeks back, and I've got a game tomorrow night down in Gainesville, Florida, with the Gators. But it's a late game, Olin, so we're not on until 8:30 tomorrow, and I'm close enough to Gainesville
so
to
you
where,
can do it.
Yeah, I can stay home tonight. We're going out to dinner tonight. We've got a nice reservation at a place where it's called Cafe and Then Some. You can kind of you eat and then you interact with this place. So it's a good Valentine's Day thing. But I'm close enough to where tomorrow, if there's any kind of weather problems, I can still drive to Gainesville, but I'm scheduled to fly, and the late game helps. So we're doing that tonight. Like, we made sure a couple of weeks back that I was going to be home for Valentine's Day night.
Okay, well, I'm sorry they didn't schedule it a little bit better, so you could have missed it. But anyway, what a great game. But we're going to talk about a lot of things, and we'll get to the Aggies, but going to see Florida, there's so much attention placed on Auburn and Alabama being the best teams in the country. But, A&M and Florida, how do you see both of those teams?
Well, I'll start the Florida conversation with what Bruce Pearl told me back on Tuesday. I had Auburn at Vanderbilt, a comeback win for number one. Again, I mean, Auburn is so good and so solid, as you guys know, and everybody's excited about the game tomorrow. But Bruce Pearl talking about his loss to Florida, their previous game in the jungle down at Neville Arena. He's like, look, Florida's a Final Four team. I mean, how could you argue against that right now? They're certainly in contention for that with their bigs. Alex Condon's a little banged up, but I don't think it's a long-term injury with the ankle when he went down in the midweek against Mississippi State. But it's Walter Clayton Jr. I mean, Florida is legit because of their depth, their coaching, their talent, and then now their resume. I mean, you win at number one in that environment against the jungle. Who else is going to stand in your way this year? So, yeah, the Gators are right there. And then with the Aggies, and a great job Buzz Williams has done, man. It's hard to believe it's year 6 down there. They rebound, you guys know, at an elite level. They added Pharrell Payne this year, and he's the bounciest player in the SEC right now. I mean, like, that's the adjective I've used to describe him, those 2 games. And he's probably one of my favorite players in the league because there can be a game like what we saw against Mizzou where he goes for 20. There can be a game like what we've seen other outings where he grabs 10, 12 rebounds. And that can happen in the same contest. Like, he's been challenged by Buzz. It's taken him some time, I think, to adjust to the A&M culture, the philosophy, and the way Buzz Williams goes about doing his thing. Buzz told me last weekend, Pharrell was flattened in September. He wasn't used to working like this. And now we see what he's capable of. So, and that's just part of the equation. So when I think about A&M, I think about some of the transfer portal additions. I think about Wade Taylor. I think about rebounding. And they're right there, like resume-wise, with the wins that they've been able to stockpile. You're talking about a chance as number 2 seed. You close strong given the schedule that you have. You've got a chance to be a 1. And nobody's saying that right now because of all the teams in front of them. But the schedule is strong enough, guys, to where that's not impossible to achieve. But, man, what a year it's been so far for the Aggies. It's been fun to watch.
What would you guess, since you brought up the NCAA tournament, see how many teams do you think from the SEC could be number 1 seeds? Of 4, how many SEC teams do you think might be number 1 seeds?
I mean, it would be silly to think that right now 3 is is not in the wheelhouse. I mean, who are you going to leave out between Auburn, Bama, and then who else do you want to throw in there? You Florida, Tennessee, A&M. I mean, all right there. So to me, 2 is the baseline. Can it be 3? Yes, it can. It just depends on what happens, I think, in these final couple of weeks. And everybody plays each other. Like this Auburn-Alabama game tomorrow, they're going to play again at the end of the regular season. A&M schedule down the stretch is tough. You got ranked teams coming everywhere. So you can play your way in to that spot. Is that probable to happen? I'm not smart enough to tell you that, but is it possible? Yeah, of course it is. And then let's see, what happens with some of the other teams flirting with that number 1 seed, Tennessee, Duke. Can Iowa State get back up in there? Who else is possible? It depends on what happens with everybody else. But I think minimum, the SEC is getting 2 number 1 seeds, and it's not impossible at all. It definitely is possible to get 3 at this juncture.
I feel like in the past, Roy, A&M basketball teams have started off a little bit slow at the beginning of the season, but this year it seems like they've been clicking from the get-go. So just in your opinion, why do you think that's been the case?
It's a good question. The resume supports the idea of the Aggies being a 2 seed right now because of what happened in non-conference play. It's a great combination of returning players and then the additions in the portal with even guys like C.J. Wilcher. And when I talked about Pharrell Payne, and Henry Coleman's played in 100 games in College Station now, the Duke transfer. I asked Buzz Williams, I was like, what do you look for in the transfer portal? Like, how did you hit the number of home runs you hit with this past cycle? And he was like, well, we needed an outside shooter. We needed some help inside. And, we look at guys that match our system and our culture. And he goes, it really just boiled down to the players that we got. And we went all in with those players. So it's not like we had this extended offer sheet and sent out all these offers to guys that just put their name in the portal. We did our homework and this is the end result. And so I think that has paid dividends. It paid dividends in the non-conference schedule. I don't know how you put a value and a price tag on what Wade Taylor does. And I know, that he wasn't healthy the entire season up to this point. But I look at his last couple of games. I don't have his Georgia numbers in front of me. I had 2 games in a row with the Aggies. And I saw him go, I think it was 7 of 8 from 3 at South Carolina. He hits the game winner at Missouri. Wade Taylor's going to leave there as the all-time leading scorer in school history, assuming he stays healthy. How do you put a value on that and what all of that experience means to Texas A&M and in the FCC in particular? It's difficult to do. It's impossible to do. But him and his stabilizing nature, if it's a close game, we all know where the ball is going. And when he got the basketball at Mizzou last Saturday, it was 10 seconds left. And I think he initially got it. And then it goes to Andy. He's going to get it back. And when the shot's off the fingertips, in my mind, I'm thinking this is going in. And so I know his teammates are thinking that, right? And look, Henry Coleman, what did he have? 16 rebounds in that game. Mm-hmm. That was a career best. You've got his returning experience, Taylor's returning experience. I'm adding Pharrell Payne. I'm adding these other pieces. Garcia is coming off the bench doing things, and he's been dynamic at times this year. You've got guys that know their roles, and with all of the experience, they're not going to get rattled. We saw that at Oklahoma, right? I mean, we mentioned Zurich Phelps, another guy in the portal that comes in and has been remarkable. So I like teams in March that have guys that know their roles, teams that are experienced. And then you've got these bouncy bigs that can rebound and don't mind sitting in the backseat until their name is called upon, and their offense is built around the offensive glass with Coleman and with Payne. Everybody kind of fits into this puzzle kind of fits together. So it's not a team you want to see in March because of all of those reasons. You asked me what the difference has been this year in the fast start. Everybody kind of knows their role. Everybody has the experience, even if it wasn't in College Station to begin with. It's funny, too, because you're still kind of under the radar. Yeah. A&M is still on the radar with Auburn, Bama, Florida, Duke. That's a good spot to be in. That's okay. You don't have to make waves until you get to March, and this team is capable of doing exactly that.
Absolutely. Roy, have a good call this weekend down in Gainesville. I'm sure.
Have a good time tonight.
Have a good time, and happy Valentine's Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, you got it, guys. Anytime. Appreciate you.
That's Roy Philpott there on the Buppies Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break here. We'll get to Around Aggieland with Kay Naegeli on the other side. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. Two minutes left here on the Go Hour. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. We're inside the Rollo Insurance Studio And the Go Hours is presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We got to do Around Aggieland with Kay Naegeli. That's presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normandystatebank.com. Kay Naegeli, take it away.
We're going to jump right in. Opening day has officially arrived. I know a lot of Aggies are excited for Michael Early's first season in Aggieland to begin. They kick off tonight versus Elon. That is on SEC Network Plus, so make sure you get your TVs on SEC Network Plus and watch the Fightin' Texas Aggies tonight. On the softball front, Sydney Lessentine provided 4 innings of 1-run ball before Emily Kennedy slammed the door shut on a 9-1 win for Texas A&M Trish Ford's Aggies against Wichita State last night. They will return to action in about an hour, a little more than, to face UCF. They are in the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational over there in Florida. On the basketball front, Buzz Williams and co. look for 5 straight wins. They will take on Arkansas in College Station tomorrow morning, an 11 a.m. tip. I know OB's ready for that one. On the women's basketball front, Joni Taylor's Aggies will be away this weekend at number 21 Alabama, looking to get out of that losing streak. That game is on Monday. And then track and field is also away. They hit the road for the Tiger Paw Invitational. They are at Clemson, and that will conclude the regular season indoor slate. Men's tennis will face arch rival Texas in the opening round of the ITA Indoor National Championship on Friday. Hopefully they can get past them. I know Texas has a dominant tennis program. And then men's golf is in Hawaii. How about that? Heck of a place to spend your Valentine's Day. Competing in the John A. Burns Intercollegiate Women's Golf is in the Moon Golf Invitational there in Florida. So we have a lot of teams here, a lot of teams away. Should be a good weekend.
Thank you very much, Kay. Right on time. OB, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you. That was the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. On the other side, Richard Zane, Ryan Brauninger, Scott Clendenin. The baseball bunch is back. Come on back. This is TexAgs Live presented by David Garner Jewelers. Welcome back in. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And it's a segment we've all been waiting for. The baseball bunch is back. Opening day, gentlemen.
Back!
Possibly the greatest day on the American calendar.
How's your morning been?
Been great. How about yours?
How was your 8 o'clock hour?
Been taking any big swings?
Couldn't have been any better.
Baseball a big topic?
Yeah.
It's growing on you.
The big bats, the big swingers. Definitely
Olin was, and it's Valentine's Day, so you got the A+ version of Olin Buchanan.
He gave you
from what I
some
understand.
great relationship advice.
He did.
That was fantastic.
That is, I've never heard that. And
Are
I
you a
snore.
snore? You're a snore?
Well, I used to. Now, thanks to my, well, they're not sponsors, but Heartstrong did such a good job with my CPAP stuff. I don't snore anymore. So I guess by Olin's description,
well,
I'm good in bed.
Is Olin the first person to tell you that? Nick, go ahead.
Not touching that one.
We got Scott Clendenin here. We got Richard Zane. And we got Ryan Brauninger here for the baseball roundtable. Gentlemen, like I said, opening day, opening weekend, Elon comes to town. Just, I guess, initial thoughts on the series. Or I guess we'll start with this. What do y'all think we're going to learn, if anything, from this first series? I know 3 games, small sample set, but Scott, we'll start with you. Do you think, we'll really learn too much about this Aggie baseball team from the first 3 games of the year?
I think you can. I think you have guys, that have had struggles at times against this pitching staff that they've seen for A&M. I mean, what the weaknesses are, and do you want to let Jace hit a home run off you in an inter squad? No. Well, I know where I can maybe throw a pitch, and if I throw it perfect, that plays into it. Offense and defense. I thought it was interesting yesterday when Jace talked about the fact that for the first time, we get to be supporting each other 100%. And we're not a split squad because you're cheering for your guys and you're appreciating guys against you. So there is a lot you can learn. And I think that this lineup and the dynamics of it give you a chance to see, with Caden Sorrell out, how this lineup can absorb somebody not being out there. And that is something that will happen at other times, at other positions, that is important, and they get that right out of the bat because you're not starting with the 9 out there 100%. You're already having to deal with a little adversity, and you're giving a freshman a chance for a big opportunity on the field tonight.
So I think we know what the starting 9 is going to look like, at least the lineup, at least the players who are going to be in the lineup, the batting order today on opening day. But I think we'll learn this weekend probably which pitchers have pitched the best in the preseason as they've ramped up getting ready for opening day. But we'll also learn who is going to be able to handle the adversity that Scott just mentioned, right? We already know they're without Caden Sorrell this weekend, potentially next weekend, out of an abundance of caution as he handles a tweaked hamstring. But we'll get to see, when things don't go according to plan and don't go perfectly, which the likelihood of it going absolutely perfect, even against Elon, is still slim to none. We'll get to see who reacts and who really is a player when the lights come on. And I'm excited to see who emerges and who the coaching staff learns that they can trust as conference play gets closer and closer.
Yeah, to me, I don't think we can learn anything definitively, right? I mean, there's 52 more of these after this weekend. And like Scott said, you're going to have so many rotations of the lineup. There's going to be fluctuations in who's in, who's out. Hayden Schott, we found out yesterday, publicly found out yesterday that he's kind of dealing with a re-aggravation of that meniscus that he had repaired in the offseason. It won't change his role. He was never going to play outfield on this team, regardless if his knee was healthy or not. But he is dealing with it. Gavin Grahovic dealing with coming off of a surgery. Jace Lavalette missed all the fall. So there is going to probably be more hiccups early if I had to guess. Just on base, you can't there's nothing you can do to replicate those at-bats that you've missed. And I don't care if you're a 23-year-old, 24-year-old like Hayden Schott, or the projected number 1 overall pick like Jace Lavalette, or a next year first rounder in Gavin Grahovic. There is no substitute for you standing in the batter's box and getting those live at-bats. They missed them in the fall. So it could be a little bit later that they find their footing. It could take them a little bit longer. You remember last year, Jace was just got off to a red hot start. It was hitting a home run just about every game. And it may take him a week or two to get back into that just because he's got to catch up in the volume of at-bats. But in terms of learning anything definitive, I would be hesitant to say that would happen this weekend.
Speaking of Caden Sorrell, again, out of an abundance of caution, like you mentioned, going to take the weekend off. Just most likely going to see Terrence Keel the second, right, out there.
That's what Coach Early
in
said,
the outfield.
yeah.
So, talk about, a little bit of the player we're going to see in Terrence.
Well, it's funny because we had Caden Kennan here, and he called TK the ultimate gamer. He said when the lights go on, that guy's tools flash way more than they do in practice. And there's some bloodlines that go with that, right? And I would say Caden Kent is very similar in that way. Caden Kent's tools in practice, you may be, they may not catch your eye, but when the lights come on, there's nobody else I'd rather them have hit a ground ball to than Caden Kent, right? Because you just trust him. TK has just been, and he's something different, right? Just an electric skill set. I don't know if he's faster than Jace Lavalette, but it's close. And he can really go 180 feet as good as anybody or better than anybody on the ball club. So, and he's earned this opportunity. He came in as a highly touted true freshman out of Atlanta. Obviously, there's a little bit of pressure for him coming here, following his dad's legacy, and that's been no sweat for him. He has taken it in stride. You'd never know by talking to him that he's felt any pressure at all. He may not have. But you talk to him, he's a confident kid, and he's ready to go. I like that he's getting the start. I like that he's earned the opportunity to get the start.
And I like his positional flexibility. We've seen him on the infield. We see him in the outfield. You and I were talking how, you had heard from some people that, hey, if there's a pop-up hit on the infield and he calls it, we want him to go get the ball. Because when the ball's in the air, he's got that ability to track it and stay focused on it and catch it. So, I just think that, a freshman coming into this lineup in a year where everybody's like, it's all upperclassmen, it's all transfers, it's all guys with experience, to have him. I liked what I saw from Sawyer Farr, but before he got nicked up, those guys are pushing their way saying, hey, we belong at this level and we're learning from the guys around us and we have the ability to contribute to this team when our time is called. And I think that for him, it's the first week. And whether that's a couple hits, whether it's scoring a big run or making a big play in the outfield, he's going to contribute to what A&M does this week and all season long.
The speed just jumps off the page at you, too. Like, it's one of the first things you notice when Terrence Keel II takes the field. It was Saturday during the first pitch game where he hit that triple, and he almost caught the guy in front of him. We've seen the speed play in both of the fall exhibitions that they had earlier in the year, but that's going to play not only offensively but in the outfield, too. And if Caden Sorrell is going to be down and you're going to have your two fastest guys manning center field, Jace Lavalette, and right field with Keel, makes me feel really, really good about the real estate they can cover out there.
Somebody you mentioned, Bronny, Caden Kent. He played in 51 games last year, but only started 24 of those. Going to get everyday reps now with this team this year. So, what do you think we can expect from Caden?
It's funny, the caption that they used for their hype video yesterday was "Earn It," and we talked about TK earning that opportunity in right field with Sorrell down. Caden Kent has patiently earned this opportunity to be the everyday shortstop at Texas A&M. And there is not a soul on that ball club that has worked harder than he has for this moment. Mm-hmm. Because of the work he put in, because of the bloodlines he's got, because of the type of kid he is, you trust him. You trust him out there to be the everyday shortstop. And, I've heard some people say, well, is he athletic enough? There may have been some people around here the last few years that thought he wasn't good enough to play the shortstop every day. And then I'm sitting there going, well, what tool does Caden Kent not have that Hunter Haas had? Hunter Haas was an elite fielding shortstop at Texas A&M.
Hit the ball to him, you're out.
Right. Like, what's preventing Caden Kent from playing defense at that level? The answer is there's nothing. And I'm so happy for Caden because there was some real – he went through some times – in his career at Texas A&M where he felt like he was buried. And he didn't leave. He didn't get his dauber down. He didn't shrug his shoulders. He kept his chin up and he just kept showing up and kept working. And now It's he blossomed into a star last year in the postseason, and now he's getting his chance to take over the everyday job at shortstop because he's earned it.
I think it was funny that when we put out the projections and some of us had him down at the bottom of the lineup, it's like, well, why would he be there? And I mean, it's a folly for me to think that I'm going to know exactly what the coaches are thinking. But if you're Caden Kent and you are in the 9 hole, your role is huge for who's going to be in the front 3 in front of you. He is a guy that I want having an opportunity to start innings, to have times when he comes up where he's in the middle of a rally, or if it's an at-bat that has to win a game. He has earned my respect for him, that I think he's going to succeed in a game that's built out of failure. Because I've seen him do it now in the biggest moments.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's going to happen, but if he's the leadoff hitter tonight, it would not surprise me.
Exactly.
Or if he's hitting in the top 3 of the order, it wouldn't surprise me.
But I also don't think hitting him 9 is any sort of disrespect towards
it's
him,
not.
because it's so important, right? You talk about hitting leadoff. You only hit leadoff once. You're only guaranteed to lead off an inning once. Like, Caden Kent at 9 is definitely going to be a trusted table setter for the top of the order. And you're going to have big bats at the top of that order.
And look who he would be look who he would be in front of. Either Lavalette or Grahovic or Hensler. So if you're the guy that they're putting in front of him, they're thinking, hey, we've got a guy that's going to be on, so you're in an RBI opportunity wherever you are in the lineup. And
he's been really good in the preseason.
Yeah.
If he is hitting in the 9 hole, that's the best 9 hole hitter in the country.
He was fantastic in the fall, too. We saw him get super hot in May and June, and then he carried it into the fall. Everything off his bat seemed like over 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity.
Which is a big difference.
Yes.
His exit velos have steadily climbed to a point where it's not a random 103. The randomness now is the 89 to 91. He's getting a bunch of 100 pluses.
It's not random when it's landing on the other side of the fence either.
So he's carried it from May and June into the fall and now into February. Makes me believe that he's capable of being consistent and carrying it through the entire year.
Caden's biggest obstacle is going to be Caden's brain. He is ultra competitive. Ultra competitive. So when he's struggling at the dish, it's not that he's going to pout when he goes to shortstop. He is going to be fighting angry. And that rage that, you got to play the game with emotion and not be emotional. That's what he's going to have to fight because he's so stinking competitive. And I like what I've seen in the dugout, interactions with teammates and coaches on days that he's not been good at the plate. It seems like he's doing a much better job of controlling himself between innings.
Let's talk a little bit about this rotation this weekend. Talking to y'all yesterday or whenever it was announced. Early, I guess Coach Early told us on Monday we knew what the rotation was going to be. Kind of not surprising with Prager on Friday night or Lampkin on Saturday, but Miles Patton, probably at least from what I understand from y'all, probably the obvious choice there.
There were no surprises at all, right? And I think a lot of people are probably, at least on Twitter and on the board, probably making a little bit too much of a deal, too much ado about nothing as far as all 3 of them being left-handed.
Who cares?
If your best starting pitchers are all left-handed, like Bronny just said, who cares, right? Who cares?
You got to get. I wrote a preseason article about essentially it was about outs. The most important thing in baseball are outs. That's what ends the game. It's not no shot clock. It's not a game clock. You got 27 outs. You got to get them. So does it matter if the guy throwing the ball from the mound to get the outs is right-handed, left-handed, or no-handed? No. Does he get outs? Yes. Run him out there. Are the first 9 outs more important than the last 9 outs? No. You got to get all of them.
Yeah.
You got to get all of them. So who fills what role? I think they're going to go into tonight with a plan into the weekend with a plan of how they would like to see those outs divvied up each game. But there's not, your first question was, what are we going to learn? And I do think in an ideal world, you're going to have games where, maybe Brad Rudis gets his 1 inning in the 6th or 7th to bridge you to the back end, or, Ty Baker gets a save opportunity or a closeout opportunity. So does Clayton Freshcorn. That's ideal. But outs are outs. So if you need to bring in Clayton Freshcorn in inning 4 tonight, you do it because those outs have got to be made and you're trying to win every game.
Well, the other thing is about outs. I think with these 3 guys to start the season, they've played in enough college baseball games that not getting an out, a misplay, a bleeder that falls in, you've got three guys that have been starting a long time that they're not going to carry that into the next batter. And I think they're going to set a tone of, I'm going to be professional about this. I know that we're not going to play perfect baseball, especially the first weekend of the year, and it's not going to affect what my job is, what my next pitch I have to throw is to get that next out. And I think that plays well to keep it calm as far as what you're getting from the mound because, hey, JK hasn't been to war with these guys yet, but he knows their reputation, and I think they're going to be able to pitch to that expectation this weekend, and that's going to be huge because these are three experienced guys. Doesn't matter that they're all three left-handed.
Two of the three come with experience of succeeding on the highest level. Talk about Ryan Brager and Justin Lampkin, what they did in the College World Series last year, but then Miles Patton had a 3.26 ERA last year at Long Beach. These guys have been around the block, and that's huge for this pitching staff.
I don't mean this to belittle Miles Patton's ability at all, but if he's Ryan Prager light on Sunday, this rotation is in a very good spot. And what do I mean by that? He's left-handed, it's 89 to 92, and it's a lot of strikes. It's competitive in the strike zone, and it's experienced to where, like Scotty said, you walk a guy, we kick a ball, you make a mistake, and they beat you up with it. It doesn't snowball on you. It's about making the next pitch. And I also want to give a shout-out to Weston Moss because I think he really, really pushed to get into that starting rotation on the weekend. The tentative plan for Coach Early was that he was going to start on Tuesday in the midweek. He said it would not determine his usage rate this weekend because they want to get him on the mound if an opportunity presents itself. I loved what he showed on Saturday at the first pitch scrimmage. You mentioned some errors. They made two bad errors in the outfield with true freshmen. One was Marco Jones, who just got here. And balls fall, and then the inning kind of gets away from him, but he never stopped throwing it over the plate. Two bad errors behind him. I think he gave up the homer to Sorrell in that inning, and he should have been out of it, giving up one run. He ended up giving up 7, but he kept competing. And I saw Jason Kelly go to him when he came off the mound that inning, high-five him, pat him on the butt, and tell him how proud he was of just the way he competed. That kid's taken a lot of steps, and he's got the look aesthetically from his build, the way he pitches with a chip on his shoulder, the stuff. He's got the look of an SEC weekend guy. I like where Weston Moss is at.
Let's hit a break here, guys. More baseball bunch coming up on the other side, so keep it right here. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. Welcome back in. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. The Mavericks bringing us back. I just turned to say, hey, Ronnie, what you know about the Mavericks? I don't care.
Is that a comment about him putting on a few LBs and getting rid of him?
No.
About
What?
The Mavericks.
The Mavericks is a band. No. I was not talking about basketball. This is...
You ruined my vibe.
Pick the vibe back up, Nick. Like
this is the baseball bunch.
Get
the
the
baseball
white monster back out.
Get the vibe
Pick
back
the
up.
vibe back up here. Come on.
Ask us a question.
There we go.
Vibes, yes.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mrs. Savage. Peer pressure is a hell of a thing.
Let's talk a little bit. You kind of talked about it in the last segment, bullpen usage. What do you think it's going to look like? Obviously, Coach Kelly, Coach Early have a plan on who they want to see, when they want to see him this weekend. What do you think that's going to look like?
So we don't know yet, right? The interesting thing that Jason Kelly shared in his interview with Brauninger earlier in or I guess it was last week, was they're not going to be written in pen as far as 8th inning, 9th inning guys. If it's going to be high leverage situation in the 7th, they think that's going to be the highest leverage spot. It's going to be their highest leverage guy, whether that be Isaac Morton or Clayton Freshcorn or any number of guys. Peyton Smith. Talked about Brad Rudis a little bit. Bronny, correct me, add some names if I'm leaving anybody out.
Well, I think Brad, it was interesting that he said they're trying to get Brad in inning. Brad's coming off a little preseason shoulder soreness. Nothing's wrong with him. He was just a little sore shoulder. But they do want to get him on the mound. I mentioned earlier this month that Josh Stewart was coming off an offseason injury. I don't think he'll be available this weekend. We have not gotten that confirmed by anybody on the coaching staff, but I tend to believe he won't be a go until next weekend. He's close. He's throwing off the bullpen. Everything looks normal. It's nothing long-term, but they think he's close, but maybe not just ready for this weekend. So to answer your question, you are going to get those names that we've heard a lot about in preseason. Ty Baker, Clayton Freshcorn, Jackson Brousseau, Peyton Smith looked like a different guy last week in the first pitch scrimmage. Isaac Morton, we know about the arm talent. Where does it fit? So, and Caden Wilson, all these second-year arms that I've discussed so much, they're going to play a pivotal role in this season, and we'll kind of see how they fit in this first weekend. There's 27 outs to get in each of these games. So you're going into the weekend, you got to get 81 outs, and then you're going to have to turn around and get 27 more on Tuesday. There's going to be a lot of arms that throw, especially this early in the year when pitch counts are down. I would expect you to see everybody to get a run out because if nothing else, this staff wants to see what Ty Baker is going to look like under the big lights and Jackson Brousseau. I know when I saw him last Saturday in front of all those people, it wasn't a problem for him. And he's throwing this breaking ball that's, I guess you'd call it a power curveball, but it's got metrics of a curveball, slider, and splitter. And it's given people absolute fits. And then behind it has been 96 to 98 mile-an-hour fastball.
And who's it been given fits to? This offense that everybody expects to be as good as anybody in the country. Mm-hmm. And I think the pitchers have had enough days, the yin and the yang, all right? Pitchers have had enough days that you say there's nothing wrong with those guys. Hitters have had enough days where you say, well, against this pitching staff, look how good it is. So I'm excited for some of those guys that haven't been out there. And you talk about velo. I mean, when you don't throw mid-90s, it's kind of like, wow. I remember when the guy, the left-hander throwing 89 to 90 was, top of the chart kind of things. The game has evolved so much.
He was last year, too.
The game has evolved so much that's the change up to what you do. And if you match it the right way to where you follow velocity after a Prager who's pitching and has that stuff and only goes and gets it when he needs it. And then what does that make that 95 to 96 look like? 102? Because you haven't seen it this whole time. And then you go back to it. So I love the mixture that they can have with this pitching staff.
It's been interesting, a name that's been popping up more and more as we inch closer to the season on the pitching staff is Cade McCoy. Left-hander out of Bloomington, Indiana, Mike Early's home state. He's built like Evan Aschenbeck. I'm not saying he's Evan. I'm not saying he's going to pitch like Evan. But the build, he's left-handed. The fastball is going to be in a similar range. And the more we've talked to the coaching staff as we build up to the season, they have started to sprinkle his name in more with that freshman group that could have a chance to impact games. And Gavin Lyons and Caden McCoy's name keep coming up a lot.
First base, how do we think that's going to shake out?
I think it's Bender up.
I think tonight it's Bender up.
In the preseason, I heard that whether it was open scrimmages, inter squads, anything like that, Blake Benderup was homering once every 7 plate appearances. That is a ridiculous clip.
Well, and Bendy did this in the lead up to last year. He was so good in the preseason that they couldn't keep him out of the opening day lineup. Remember, he homered in the opener against McNeese, and then kind of took a tumble in a free fall, and Teddy Burton took over full time. And to Teddy's credit, never allowed really Blake to try to catch a foothold into the season. I think the game got sped up on Blake. The strike zone, whenever you're sped up, the strike zone expands. Not actually, but in your eyes that it does. And so you start swinging more at bad pitches. But if Blake can control the strike zone, and that is the theme for this entire offense, but if Blake can control the strike zone, Blake has got a chance to be a name that nobody in the SEC knows that they will know in June. I mean, that's the level that he's playing at. He's gotten so much better defensively. He's 6'6", 235 pounds, so the physicality's there. And he has been sensational again in the preseason. He's leading the team in homers, like Richard said, in this preseason build-up, not by 1. It's by like 3 or 4. He's hitting a ton of home runs right now. So as long as he stays within that and doesn't try when the game comes on, I've got to do more, I think he's got a chance to take it and run with it at first base. If he doesn't, we'll see Bergevin.
Ryan, when you have a guy like that, and in front of him and behind him are people that have been through all of this for at bat after at bat, does it relax you? Because you know this isn't all on me. The guy behind me, if I don't succeed, has the opportunity. Or the guy in front of me is saying, I believe that you're the guy behind me. I just think the depth and length of this lineup is all of those guys can trust one another, that they don't have to put themselves in that position, which is still natural, but you don't have to feel like there's pressure.
I don't disagree with that, but I think with Blake, it's going to be not more so can he trust the guys around him, but can he trust himself?
Yeah.
And not put the pressure on, hey, I did this last year, and I started the season last year, and it didn't go well for me. You've got to put that behind you and talk and think about and trust with your preparation, trust your coaching. I think he implicitly trusts the guys in front and behind him. He's got to trust himself to be the best version of Blake Benderup.
Let's hit a break here on the other side. Maybe touch on catcher a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more baseball. Obviously, here on the Baseball Bunch, opening day. More baseball talk coming up on the other side. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. Back with the baseball bunch here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers. We're here inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. Got Ryan Brauninger, Richard Zane, and Scott Clendenin in here. And guys, we touched on first base a little bit. I think the only other position on the field that's kind of in question is catcher. So how's that going to look? Everyone's taking, yeah.
Start over there. I've been talking
Scott,
too much.
Scott?
I think that all three guys that I've seen behind the plate have shown something. I like, the physicality. Bear's a big guy. On a team of big guys, is a big guy going to play? You've got George, who's kind of like the Swiss Army knife, can play anywhere. I look at this team at the positions where you still have some questions, and I would expect to see all of them play probably a couple times in the next week. So the coaches get a feel for it. And I think that because they've all caught all these pitchers, there's not going to be any hesitation in what they throw or how they think that, that I can't throw a pitch. I think, I've seen some Aggie teams where catching was a question mark, that pitchers couldn't trust their stuff. I don't think they're going to have that this week. So I just think that those three guys are going to kind of battle it out amongst themselves, and the guy who's hot's going to be the one who plays.
You got a right-handed hitter in Bear Harrison, left-handed hitter in Jacob Galloway, and then the switch hitter in Jamal George, who's also the super utility guy. He's listed as a switch hitter on this page.
Yeah, he's
okay,
not.
Then that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got two right-handed hitters and a left-handed hitter. So you've got options there. I wouldn't be surprised if they platoon that position, at least in the early going, to see who really emerges as the everyday catcher.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the guy that's going to be the steadiest right now, it'd be Jacob Galloway. The higher upside is Bear Harrison. I mean, you get in a situation where Bear Harrison it gets hot at the dish, and he can run a bunch of balls out of the yard and really help you offensively. He's been fine defensively, but Galloway has been kind of like steady Eddie. Not going to do anything that overly impressive, but he's going to catch the baseball. He's going to manage the pitching staff. And he is going to do something in the batter's box a little bit different than everybody else in the lineup because he's so adept at the bunt game. He can do some hit and run stuff. He handles the bat really, really well. So he's a little bit different than every other hitter that you have in the lineup, especially if it's Sorrell and not TK out in right field. And then the big wild card is Jamal. And I think tools-wise, Jamal is as good as anybody behind the dish. It's just that he's had to split a bunch of time in different positions. So is he a little bit rusty in terms of receiving the ball, which is the main thing a catcher has to do until we go to computerized strike zones, then robotic strike zones, then receiving the baseball is the most important analytical part of catching and fooling umpires, stealing strikes is extremely important. I don't know. You'd have to ask Troy Claunch how he feels with the entire group, and then individually who he thinks does that the best. But Jamal has been on a red hot tear, swinging the bat. So, and the good thing for Jamal is that he can play catcher and he can play third, second, and short. He can play the corner outfield spots. So I do think, and Coach Early said that they're going to look for instances to get Jamal in the game and potentially start him in right field in one of these games this weekend. But behind the dish, I would lean. Boy, it's really tight between Harrison and Galloway. I'd lean Galloway, just because I think they know a little bit more about what they're going to get out of him. Whereas Bear Harrison can ride some really high highs, and then regress down to the mean. I think you're just going to get kind of a flatline, steady Eddie thing from Jacob Galloway.
I think that's probably some familiarity, being a Pac-12 team at the time. And Coach Kelly being in that league and seeing USC while he was around. But it's a good problem to have. And I think it helps this team all year long that maybe you don't have to ride one guy. That you've been very special and lucky with Claunch and Appel that these guys never had an issue to where they had a deterioration because of it. Those are special guys. Normally that doesn't happen. It helps you to have a little bit of backup and the ability to get a guy off their feet and not have catcher just wear down as a long season goes along.
And the what they're facing in terms of their offensive output is going to change. And there may be, early in the year, there may be a guy that handles the offense better. And then when it gets to SEC play, another guy gets a little bit hot. So, like, and to Scott's point, like the ability to rotate, get these guys off their feet, and it also gives you on a team that even when they're fully healthy, they're not a great running team. If you're wanting to really knock them, it's like overall team speed. Now, they do have some elite runners in that, but overall, it's not a fast group. So when you have multiple catchers, and Jacob Galloway, for not being a fast guy, I've been told is their best base runner, most heady base runner. But it does get in a situation where if you need to take him out of the game to play a matchup, or you need Bear Harrison gets on base late and you need a run for him, with Caden Sorrell healthy, you've got real options to come off the bench and run, and then you can replace him with another guy, and you don't feel like you're taking a huge step back defensively behind the dish.
136 home runs in 2024 as a team, set a new record, right? In our TexAgs season predictions. Go check that out, by the way, on TexAgs.com. What'd you say?
Yeah, talk to those two guys about predictions and home run totals.
Well, all of y'all picked more than that, right?
I predicted they would set the record last year, and they did.
Yeah.
I predicted they would set the record last year, and they did.
And you expect them to do
Well,
it once again.
I went under. I went 120, or I went to whatever
I guess I did.
Most round number was.
Yeah, I was about to say, is my prep wrong? No. Yeah, all three of y'all picked A&M to set the record again this year. Why is that?
Well, to replace a Braden Montgomery is impossible. But you look at the best version of Gavin Cash, which he's been close to it since he's been here. You look at the best version of Caden Sorrell, and he hit 11 last year in limited at-bats. He didn't start for the first month of the season. I think both of those are 20-homer guys. And you're replacing, was it 26, 27 from Braden? That can be easily replicated just with those two guys. And then you have Wyatt Hensler, who we have spent, I think Scotty mentioned his name once. This dude can ball. He is a real player. A real player. I'm super interested to see how he handles second base, much like I'm super interested to see how Gavin Cash handles left field. But in the batter's box, Wyatt Hensler is a real dude. Real dude. And he is going to hit in the top 4 of this order. I have a hard time, based off watching his at-bats in the fall and spring, believing that he'll fall out of that top 4 in the order. He's really, really good. And so when I just looked at the totality, I'm like, man, there might be 5 guys in this lineup that can hit 20 homers. There's 100. And so the rest of the roster, you can't get to 50? I don't know. Like the math for me, and I'll say this, a lot early in the year has to do with which direction that wind's blowing at Bluebell Park. If they get a bunch of south wind games early against the non-conference, they could run that home run total up real quick.
And I think that, for me to pick 150 as well, went through the same kind of thing. And I did it last year, watching the open house game. And sitting there and going through all those guys. Wow, this guy. I know who's pitching against him, and he's leaving the yard. And I just added up. So maybe it's, you have 2 guys that hit 15 that you get the 30 out of them, and one doesn't get to 20, but the other guy exceeds expectations, and you get 30 between 2 guys. It's not a 20-10, it's 2 15s. And I think the importance of it is, and we hadn't even talked about this yet, Tuesdays. Last year, they were so good on Tuesdays. It's going to be hard in this league, weekend after weekend, to perform at that level to where you get all those home runs because of the pitching you're going against. So I think that, where you may be a team that comes in here on Tuesday and say, hey, those 3 guys aren't going to beat me. Look at the home run totals they already have. I'm not going to let them beat me. You can't do that with 9. And I think that the depth of this lineup is the ability to make that home run total move up, because you can't do it with 9. You can't pitch around 9, because eventually you have to throw strikes or you're giving up on your team when they show up at Bluebell.
The midweek thing's an interesting point, though, too, because I do think Michael Early is going to be more aggressive in getting guys innings than the previous head coach was.
We'll hit a quick break here. One more segment of the Baseball Bunch on the other side. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers. Back here on TexAgs Live, the baseball bunch. Final segment here before we get to Billy at the 10 o'clock hour. Got Richard Zane, Ryan Brauninger, Scott Clendenin, Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. He'll be back with us on Monday. Gentlemen, let's see. Hayden Schott, Coach Early said yesterday in the interview that retore that meniscus, but as Bronny mentioned to me, I guess you don't need a meniscus to hit, right?
Well, and the good thing for Hayden is that he knows how it's going to feel.
Yeah.
He played with it for the last 4 weeks, month of the season last year, really from the regional all the way through Omaha. He knows exactly what he's getting himself into. Just talking to him, he likes the brace that he's in more this year than he did last year. It's less clunky. And then once he kind of figured out how it was going to feel, the catapult numbers that they wear, the tracking systems, that the numbers weren't that much different from whenever he was fully healthy to whenever he finally got up and going and understanding how that knee was going to work. So,
and he wasn't exactly a burner before.
Right. I mean, what are you really missing from a guy that was slow? He's getting a little slower. But one thing about Schott is that sucker can really, really hit.
Yes, he can.
Really hit. And he gets not a bad rap, but everybody talks about Schott because of his personality and how funny.
Dude hit 335 in the SEC last year.
Yes,
it's crazy.
And they overlook how good of a player he really is. And so Hayden Schott's going to be, I mean, there's lineups you could write where he hits seventh. There's lineups you could write that he hits third. But one thing he's going to do is hit.
And I think that, when you get guys like that, Jack Moss, same kind of guy, that you just expect them to perform even when you're talking about the SEC level. Did any of the tools beside the hit tool jump out for you for Jack Moss? No, he's a professional hitter. And that's that compliment that goes to guys that just can do that. There is so much value in that. And his attitude and how he carries himself is not one that's going to let this get him down anyway.
I was privy to go to one of the inter-squad scrimmages in the preseason, and Schott was facing Isaac Morton. We know about Isaac Morton's stuff in his arm. If you're worried about Hayden Schott's power potential with that meniscus bothering him again, I watched him off of Isaac Morton hit a ball 112 miles an hour over Section 12, just vaporized it toward the tracks in right field. He's not showing any signs that this knee, re-injuring his knee, is going to be debilitating to what he does.
Last question here for y'all. Just who's somebody that isn't getting talked about enough, do y'all think? I feel my pick, honestly, would have been Hayden Schott because of the reason you said is when we talk about Hayden, it's because he's a funny guy. It's not because he hit 330 in the SEC. But who's a player, maybe not Schott, that we aren't talking about enough?
I think my pick is Wyatt Hensler. It took us until the third segment of this show, this hour to talk about him, on you, but also a little bit on us. And then also...
we're the analyst, you're just the host.
Think about
I just work here.
Think about how many other big names and big personalities this team has. Jace LaVallette, Gavin Grahovic, Hayden Schott, Caden Kent. The list goes on until you finally get down to Wyatt Hensler. And this is a dude who owns the Ivy League's home run record. Mm-hmm. So that's a dude that's not getting talked about a lot, at least by us.
Yet.
He's gotten a little bit of love nationally, and he's going to get a lot of love here in the next coming weeks if he does what we expect him to do.
I think it's Gavin Grahovic. I think that here's a guy who's going to be chomping at the bit after kind of being limited and being at the plate, started out playing defensively. This is a guy that's going to be ready to explode this weekend. I'm looking for him as a guy to click this weekend.
It's interesting to me. I'm going to go with Gavin Cash because I think the A&M fans obviously very fired up whenever he chose the Aggies out of the portal. And everybody's wondering, his numbers took a turn last year for the worse. And he hit 15 homers, drove in 51 last year at Texas Tech. The year before, if I'm not mistaken, Richard, Big 12 Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year,
I think so.
23 homers. And so, that is – and he can also – it's not just the balls he's running out of the yard. He hit 300 last year in a down year.
In a good league.
And so when you watch him hit enough, there's real hitterish traits. It's not just balls leaving the yard. And I saw him get fisted and hit a ball over the bullpen off of Ryan Prager in a recent scrimmage. He's got real strength, real functional strength. Maybe not be the biggest dude, but real functional strength in the batter's box. I think Gavin Cash, man, he's one of those ones. If he starts creeping into that 25 to 30 homer range, don't be surprised.
Aggie sweep?
I never bet on sweeps.
I'll take them winning the series for sure. The only thing I'm sure of is that tonight's national anthem is going to have pretty good pace of play to it. So
just tell her Happy Valentine's
Shout out to
Day.
the Big Jen for Happy Valentine's Day.
And I think that Elon's plays enough of these, and that's why I talked to Coach about it, that they may put all their eggs in one basket, just trying to get out of here with one, but the A&M should be the team that comes out with 3-0.
Billy Liucci coming up next. Thanks, guys. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers.
White Monster.
Zach Top bringing us back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers. We're here inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. He'll be back on Monday. It's opening day, one of the greatest days on the American calendar, right?
So true.
Well, at least for college baseball, we'll have Major League Baseball opening day in about 2 months or something. I don't know, maybe later than that. I don't know the
April,
calendar.
like the beginning of April.
Yeah, well, close enough. That's Callie Garner over at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. And by the way, earlier, our guests, Roy Philpott, John Nabors, they joined us on the Buppies Catering Hotline. Eat, drink, Buppies. Buppies has been in business for 35 years, catering generations of families. Buppy's mobile bar is available for any outdoor event. Ask about their bar bundle discount. Call 979-779-6417. That's Buppy's. Callie, got any texts for us? Any chats? Any news or notes that we haven't hit on that you want to bring up?
Well, I've got some interesting ranking notes.
Okay.
When the men's basketball AP poll came out on Monday, it was determined that this is the first time that any league in all of college basketball has held 4 of the top 5 spots in the AP poll, which is really impressive. But, considering the conference is 500 in conference play, there clearly isn't an established frontrunner or dominant team in the league. But, also staying on the front of SEC dominance, the SEC currently occupies 18 of the 25 possible spots in the top 5 of national polls in men's basketball, women's basketball, gymnastics, softball, and baseball. And Texas A&M holds 2 of those spots on the diamond, obviously, with the Aggies being the unanimous #1 team in college baseball and Trisha Ford's Aggies being the #5 team in college softball. And Buzz Williams and co. are not far off that list either, holding a #8 national ranking heading into the weekend.
I wonder if that was expanded out to top 10. I wonder what that would look like for the SEC. I'm sure much of the same.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, you go from 25 possible spots to 50, so
yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot there, but
anything else? Any texts? Any chats? Any
a lot of fans today for you, Nick Savage.
Oh, my mom. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of fans. Silas.
And my
buddy
mom.
Silas. Oh, Miss Garner. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and just a lot of folks excited for Aggie baseball, including myself.
Are you going to the game tonight?
I will not be there. I'm working before, so.
You and Olin.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Shocking.
We're waiting for Billy Liucci. He'll be here shortly. What we're going to do is I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of the Reed Report. That's by our basketball analyst, Luke Evangelist. He put that out. Again, just a little taste. You got to be a premium subscriber to get the whole deal. But he caught up with a bracketologist, kind of went over numbers, A&M's resume, really interesting conversation. So here it is. While we wait for Billy Liucci, check out the Reed Report with Luke Evangelist.
Welcome into the Reed Report. I'm Luke Evangelist, the TexAgs basketball analyst, and on today's episode, we sat down with bracketologist JBR Bracketology to break down where the Aggies sit just about 4 weeks away from Selection Sunday, all the ins and outs that you need to know about A&M's resume and what's going on around the country that has influenced A&M to get a #2 seed. We talked about it at length with JBR Bracketology. For the rest of the episode, just me breaking down the huge win over Missouri and Georgia. Previewing the Arkansas game will come a little bit later, but for now, it's a 2-0 week for the Aggies, looking to make it their 5th win in a row against Arkansas this week. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We're joined by JBR Bracketology, here to break down all things bracketology in Texas A&M seeding. If you're on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it these days, and you follow college basketball, you know exactly who JBR is. JBR, thanks so much for joining me. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for the offer. Thanks for the opportunity to join you, talk some Texas A&M hoops, talk some SEC hoops. I mean, this is definitely the prime time part of the season where conference tournaments are really not that far away. So it's a fun time to be following college basketball for sure.
Yeah, it is. So you are our first guest on the program that is not a former Texas A&M basketball player that all our audience grew up watching play. So I want to give you some time to explain your journey as a bracketologist, as a college basketball fan, kind of who you are, how you got into bracketology, and what it is you do.
Yeah, I mean, so, I grew up in Maryland, and I grew up at really...
And we're back here. We got TexAgs owner and executive editor Billy Liucci. Again, if you want to check out the Reed Report, head to texags.com and listen to the whole thing. Billy, good morning. I've earned a nickname, apparently.
We were talking about it on the way, and then you started because you didn't think I was coming, I guess. And you
no. I knew you were coming. I was just,
Lukey. But you have to just sit here and talk like you and Callie, like Nuno does. So now you've earned the name the Floundering Savages, which we think sounds like a band.
Kind of, yeah.
They're not like the stuff you listen to.
It's kind of like Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yeah, exactly. They're not even though the word savage is used, they're not like the music
Metal.
you listen to, like
Yeah.
a metal. Yeah, like a Hootie type thing. The Floundering Savages.
I'll take it.
Big Head Todd and the Monsters, Hootie and the Blowfish, Floundering Savages. But you didn't flounder because
I'll
you
take
went to Luke.
Yeah. He picked me up. Yeah. But anyways.
What's up?
Oh, nothing much. Excited for opening day?
Yeah, I am.
Excited for a big Aggie sports weekend. I mean, all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and I've been run down since New Orleans, of course. Same thing as Vegas last year. My limit, I've determined, is like back-to-back nights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 4. It's not 4 anymore. And then the bad sleeping arrangements and hotels, and the house I was in Saturday night, I went to sleep at like 4, and I heard a commotion downstairs, and then downstairs was I don't know. Have you heard of this? Speaking of band, have you heard of this Young Gravy?
Yes.
Young Gravy and his crew came into the house in the middle at 5:15 a.m. I had gone to bed at 4. I was leaving New Orleans at 8. Needless to say, no sleep 2 nights in a row. It caught up to me. 4 nights of that, and here we are. So, but of course, then comes the wicked cold front.
Yeah, of course. It wouldn't be opening day, right, if it wasn't
through
freezing cold out there.
So yeah, but we are looking forward to opening day anyway. I'm excited about the Mike Early era. I'm excited to see this team back in action. I'm really fired up to watch A&M Arkansas tomorrow morning. That's a big game. I mean, man, I was looking at halftime of that Georgia game. You know, you think about that upcoming schedule, and you're like, for what you're trying to accomplish, which every win gets bigger, right? Like, I get it. They could lose some games and then go in the tournament and go on a run. But every time you win one and you get closer to the end of that being in actual SEC title contention, but more importantly in contention for a 1, 2, or 3 seed, which I think that's where the cutoff where it gets pretty significant. Those top 3 seeds. And you're battling for a top 3 seed, and you're behind by 9 or whatever it is to Georgia at home, and you look and you go, okay, Arkansas is coming in. Tough opponent. 11 a.m. game. You've got Mississippi State, then Tennessee. You've still got Florida and Auburn on the schedule. Like, this is a big game for them. And it's a game that they should win at home, but it ain't going to be easy at all. I mean, Arkansas, you saw what they did to Kentucky a couple weeks ago. You saw what they did to Texas. Not that Texas is that good, but they went in there and into Austin, took them out. They're playing a lot better basketball right now. So they're going to be a tough out tomorrow. So I'm fired up about that one as well. Plus, you got Coach Cal coming in. A little bit of a show with that. Should be a really fun sports weekend. And man, we're getting to watch, Wade Taylor, Jace Laviolette, 2 of the greatest players in their sport to ever wear the uniform. So you're going to see Wade Taylor break the all-time scoring record at A&M this year, most likely. You're going to see Jace Laviolette break Dalen Holt's all-time home run record. To watch that, last year's baseball, is that not open?
Yeah,
I didn't want to drink after. To watch that go on at the same time as that's the best A&M baseball team of all time last year. Highest preseason ranked team ever here. The highest level of expectation ever for A&M baseball entering this season. And a basketball team that is playing at a level that puts them up there with some of the best ever at A&M. Now, in basketball and baseball, but we're so deep in the season in hoops, they're going to be in the conversation if they get to the if they get to the Sweet 16. If they get to the Sweet 16 with their regular season body of work, you're going to have to put them in the discussion, is that the best A&M team ever? Obviously, if they go further than that, they're going to cement themselves. I still think it's the AC Law led Sweet 16 team that went I think they lost 3 Big 12 games back when the Big 12 was the Big 12. But this basketball team has a chance to rate number 2, if not number 1, if they make a run in March. But they're both these squads are fun to watch. The players are really fun to get behind. And in baseball, when you look at Mike Early and coaching his first game tonight, that's an added piece to that gets you really fired up and excited for him. For those of you around town that know him and have met him, you know what I say when there's just not a better higher quality person coaching at A&M in any sport. You know, there's been plenty of great ones, but he's right up there at the top.
And you mentioned, A&M basketball has a chance this year to be their highest seed ever going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, if they get it too.
Again, it depends on what bracketologists you look at now, but some of them saying they're in the conversation for a 1, comfortably in the 2 to 3 range. So just, that says a lot about where this team is.
Yeah, if they can get it 2, to get it 2, they're going to have to earn it. We know that. Right now, I'd lean towards a 3. I think they'll get some of these games. They might drop a couple, but if they get hot right now, a 2 is certainly in play. It is absolutely in play. I mean, in theory, a 1's in play. How many they got left? 7. That's 7 left. If they went 5-2 in those 7, a 1 is certainly in play, and that might depend on what they do in Nashville. But I think right now this is probably a 3, potential to be a 2, potential to be a 4. Either way, they're in a really nice spot. But, I mean, look, Nick, if they win Saturday, if they go on the road and win at Mississippi State, I think everyone's going to be looking at them a lot differently because they're going to say they get Tennessee and Auburn at home down the stretch.
Yep.
So that I think, and they get obviously Vandy at home as well, but that will change if they win these next 2. And again, 1 at home, 1 on the road against Mississippi State team that's kind of been up and down. If they get those, I think everybody will revisit and go, oh, wait a second. What if they clip Tennessee and Auburn at home? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about a 1 seed? Are we talking about an SEC title contender? We'll see.
Yeah.
Long way to go.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But 11 in, and they're right there. And I know they have won so many close games. You could have flipped any of them, but man, that 22-point lead getting away in Austin, you look and go, man, they could be 9-2 right now. But at the same time, I think they learned a lot that day. I think they learned that, look, we should be on the other side of that thing. If we get behind, we're the team that comes back. We're not the one that blows a lead that big and gets beat in the closing minutes. It's just not them. They hadn't done that since the first week of the season. And since then, they've been on a real roll. Haven't lost since.
Speaking of getting behind and coming back, I don't think we've talked to you since that Georgia game and the 22-0 run. I mean, how impressive was that? That was crazy to watch.
I mean, I didn't even realize it was 20. I mean, you start looking it up and you're going, okay, it took Georgia so long to score in that second half, and that was such great defense. And credit Buzz and his staff for whatever halftime adjustments they made, but also just mentally. I was frustrated watching them in the first half, and it happens in a basketball season. We forget, man. This baseball team dropped a couple series in a row last year where they came within 1 run of a national title, and they went to Baton Rouge and Oxford and just didn't look like themselves. And they had a lot of these Tuesday night games where they were in a massive struggle. And I know you're not throwing the same guys, but you were still trotting out your lineups out there, and it's hard to do it both halves for so long. But that first half against Georgia, they did not look the same. And I'm not talking about missing shots, just their intensity, their focus, their defense, their effort level. And so much so that I think they came out in the second half and said it's going to be night and day. I think they all knew that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 22-0 run, second longest, or I guess second largest run in the SEC this year. Oklahoma went 26-0 run earlier. So, awesome to see that. And Henry Coleman, another good game, 13 points from him. He's really kind of I don't want to say emerged because we all know what he's capable of, but he's really, I guess, found another level, it feels like, this season.
Yeah, this is why you hope, this is why you try to collect juniors and seniors on your basketball team that have played a ton of hoops. Because, yeah, Henry, there have been times in his career where I felt like he was such a team guy that if someone rose up, he would be just, not in a bad way, just kind of let them rise up and, be happy for the team. And I could be wrong there, but I see a guy now that's like he's just so assertive and he's so confident and he understands that if it's his night, he's going to assert himself. And if it's not, he's going to play defense and rebound and try to get put back. He's a veteran. If there was an Aggie Heart Award, he'd be it. In basketball, he's just everything you want in a student athlete, first of all, and to represent A&M. But then secondly, man, yeah, he's playing his best year. He's figured out how to be effective against bigger, longer guys that I thought he struggled with earlier in his career. Now he seems to have figured that out. And he's playing with a level of confidence that so is his whole team. You're seeing Andy Garcia start to play better, which is scary for the rest of the league. Wade seems to be finding, that Wade Taylor stride that we know. So, man, and then you throw in Phelps and Zurich and just the toughness of a lot of these guys on the defensive end. They're going to be a tough out. And they're starting to score better in stretches too. And you wonder if there's going to be a stretch of games where they do that, because they did it last year. They did it down the stretch of the season, and then they did it through Nashville, Nebraska game, and then obviously hit a wall against that great defensive U of H team. But they got to the line in that one. They didn't make free throws, and that's what they need to do. And they've been doing a better job of that as well lately.
Yeah. The last thing about this Georgia game, then we'll hit a break and look ahead to Arkansas and talk a little Aggie baseball. Solo, we haven't talked about Solo. He had his best game of the season. Yeah, 17 points, hit 2 3-pointers, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and just, playing with the energy that Solo plays with.
So much energy, so much toughness, so much, middle finger to the other team. Like, that just fights for the ball. So athletic, blocking shots, and like when he starts hitting those things, like the little turnaround, and he can hit 3-pointers. Like, he's so athletic, he's so gifted athletically, and when he hits those shots, then the second one that bounced. But for a while there, he was the only one that had made a 3. I think A&M was like 2 for 11 from 3, and he had made both. So like, not scared. Like, hey, if no one else is going to make one of these, I'm going to do it. If you're going to leave me open, I'm going to hit a 3. And so, no, I thought Solo was exceptional the other night. Like you said, probably his best game in Maroon White, and there's been some good ones. So, yeah, there are so many weapons that on a given night can get you 15-plus points, or can get you, 8 to 11, 12 rebounds, or Zurich can go off as a scorer. Wade can go off as a scorer. It's just, I really think this team is constructed to make a run. Now, you know how it goes. You run into the wrong team one time. U of H almost ran into the wrong team. Last year in A&M. And like I said before, I talked to some people over there that said as soon as they saw the bracket, they were like, damn, like, they knew A&M was like the worst matchup for them, and they do try to do that, the committee. So, A&M will have to overcome some kind of matchup problem early in that tournament. And if they do, that's when I think they can really put it together and be a very, very tough out.
Absolutely. We'll hit a break here. More with Billy Liucci on the other side. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. Back here on TexAgs Live, Carson missed an opportunity to come back with, Hootie and the Blowfish or something, but we got Mr. Brightside instead. So that's a banger. But
they're kind of the same
ilk
as the Floundering Savages.
With Floundering Savages, that's fair enough. Billy, just real quickly, yesterday, Jermaine Kinsler, defensive tackle out of New Jersey, commits to the 2026 class. So good addition, and the Coach Elko, his staff, obviously not too worried about 2D commitments. They got a plan, right?
Yeah, they stay on it. And look, like I said, the thing about the tight end from Georgia is he was a real sudden commitment, totally unexpected. This was kind of unexpected in terms of when the young man committed, like the timing of it, but he's been here a couple times. They know all about him. He's a real familiar recruit, not only familiar to them, but A&M and the staff is familiar to him. So that's important to factor in. The other commitment they lost, I think it's probably best for both sides type of deal. You'll find probably a better fit. But this one that they just added, number one ranked player in the state that produces a lot of talent. Hell, one of A&M's better players is from that state, and Chase Basantis. They've had some other success there with guys like Diggs and Rakes over the years. Tyreek Chappelle, not in Jersey, but Pennsylvania, right? But they look. He reminds me when I watch him and I look, and then his measurables are not accurate as what you see there. I think I saw 6'6", 270. He's more 6'5 plus 290 right now. That is a big interior lineman, 290 pounds, finishing up his junior year of high school. This is a kid who's going to be a really big, tall inside guy. And if you know me, after watching that Ohio State game,
you need those guys.
Watching Texas with Broughton and Collins in there, I've said I wanted to see A&M get more height and length on the inside, not necessarily across the board, but just to have somebody in there that can change that up or bring that kind of real towering, imposing presence and that type of length on those shorter interior linemen to give them problems. And I didn't think they had that this past season with what they put on the field. So he's a change up. And they've got another one that Ruffin's like just under 6'3". So they're adding size in there. Think Jaden Peavy here. He's not going to be your 5-star top 30 player in the country, but he's going to go up and up and up from here. And as a player, think Jaden Peavy, who was a really good player on a deep A&M defensive line that went on and has played in the NFL since. So that's kind of the body type you're talking about for those that haven't really seen him.
Absolutely. Billy, let's talk a little bit about this Aggie Hoops game with Arkansas this Saturday. Like you said, big game. They're all getting big down the stretch, but a big game tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Tip-off, and I'm sure a lot of people will migrate from Reed over to Olson Field, Bluebell Park. So just are there any players you're watching on the Arkansas side that, maybe a little worried about, or are there, A&M player that you think will step up in a big way?
Well, with A&M, we're just talking about you never know. You never know.
Yep.
Has Wade Taylor exploded at home this year yet?
Let's go see.
Because maybe this is the game he does that. I don't feel like he has. In a big game. I could be wrong. It could be an obvious one I'm forgetting. But that would be my prediction. Is like a Wade Taylor type game. By the way, somebody we didn't even mention who hasn't had one of those games lately is Manny.
Yeah.
And you just never know when that's coming. When he takes the court one day.
Most points Wade scored in a big home game this year, 15.
Yeah. So I
did it a couple times.
I'm going to go ahead and call that a Wade Taylor. It's going to be a Wade Taylor day. And then Manny's an interesting one because he goes quiet and then have 2-3 games where, so who knows? Maybe I'll go wild card Manny Obaseki this week. But as far as Arkansas, I've been watching them. They're more of a by team
Big Z is a problem. You talk about length and height, and he can go out and pop threes. To me, that guy is a real issue when he gets going. So you got to keep him from becoming a factor because he has the ability to pull the big guys out. That affects A&M and their rebounding. So he's kind of, to me, the guy that worries me a little bit. But there's more on that squad. I've watched him a lot lately for whatever reason. Watched him in a pretty ugly game the other night against LSU. Watched him look really good against Kentucky. Cal's got all those Wildcats on his team. They're really athletic and explosive, even though they lost arguably their best player.
Mm-hmm. They've won 3 out of their last 5. And kind of going back to Manny, what you said, B talked about that this morning. Last 4 games, 4 different leading scorers for A&M. So that kind of goes to what you were saying earlier. It's like it can be anybody at any time on this A&M team.
Absolutely. And I think you'll see it again. It's like half by half even.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no kidding. We'll hit a break here on the other side. Maybe talk a little bit about the Aggie baseball series coming up and wrap things up here on a Friday. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers. Carson's good at taking hints. I Only Want to Be With You, Hootie and the Blowfish. Coming
Who's
back.
in that video?
Say what?
Who is in that video? Famous person, famous athlete.
I'd have to go look.
Dan Marino.
How about that?
Dan Marino during his star turn between that and Ace Ventura.
Was he an actor too?
No, he wasn't an actor, but he played himself in Ace Ventura, which I'd suggest you watch that movie. I feel like you've got a good enough sense of humor, Nick, unlike Nuno, that you would enjoy that thing.
Okay.
You would laugh.
All right. I will check that out. Billy, opening day, opening weekend, Elon coming to town. Just, I kind of want to get your thought on this. How much do you
Not
think?
to be confused with Eloninger.
Mm-hmm. Well, OB's the one that made the Elon Musk joke.
He made an Elon joke today?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
It was like the first segment, but
I heard other good ones. I told him I didn't love the one about the sleeping because I was like, I know you snore because that's why I have to pay for like multiple hotel rooms when they travel because one can't sleep in the room with the other.
Yeah.
The second one, let's just say he hit it out of the park. I did not hear the Elon one. But Eloninger is what Zane dubbed Brauninger because he knows he'll let you know he knows a lot about everything, and he'll let you know about it. So electric cars, the weather, baseball, how to shop, fish, hunt. Even though he's never done, you just go on and on.
Yeah,
he's going to tell you about it.
Just
working out, dieting.
What do you think we'll learn about this Aggie baseball team, if anything, from this 3-game set?
I just think it's going to be fun to watch how he works the pitching rotation this weekend, beyond the starters, and how much, you got to think they're not going to obviously overtax the starters in their first start of the season, how he works the bullpen and stuff, and just to see someone like Bronny said earlier, which he does know a lot about, is baseball. These second-year arms that could go a long way towards determining exactly how far this team goes. So that and watching a lot of these new faces, Cash, Hensler, Keel, those are 3 that really stand out to me that I'm fired up to watch, and I want to see the catching position as well.
Have any concern about Sorrell? Obviously,
no, none at all.
Yeah,
zero, none. I think people flipped out. Early was on with us and explained it, but then in the presser he said foreseeable future. That freaked some people out the way it was written and presented on social media because it's what he actually said. But no, I think this is just precautionary. When you have a hamstring, it's just a matter of why. The last thing you want to do is rush that. Just like in any sport, you want it to be completely healed up. It is such a long season in baseball, so I think they're going to be overly cautious with Sorrell. He's one of the absolute best players on this team. He's going to be I think he's an all SEC candidate, all American candidate even. So they're going to make sure when he comes back, he's all the way back and can hit the ground running and ride that all the way through the rest of the season without it being an issue. So err on the side of caution, especially this early in the season.
It's something I thought about yesterday in terms of like NCAA baseball, basketball does this. Would you be interested to see, higher or bigger matchups to open up a season?
Yeah.
Like NCAA football does?
Yeah, I would.
Basketball, I think there's a few, marquee matchups around college baseball, but I feel like for the most part, most teams prefer the tune-up series, if you want to call it that.
They've given way. Well, this weekend I don't really care. But by next weekend, but they've given way to these tournaments generally.
Yeah.
So most teams don't. Most coaches, most teams don't want to play a tournament and a high profile. Look, A&M's got what? They've got Elon. They've got Cal Poly.
Yep.
Who are their other non-conference series again?
New Mexico State, and that's it.
So you got 3 non-conference series plus a tournament weekend.
Yep.
You go and mix in let's say you want to play like a Stanford or a Miami or Florida State or somebody. Clemson. Now 2 of your 4 non-conference are against heavyweights that you're really trying to win to help yourself. You're throwing, you're throwing everything at it. And then you enter SEC. You've already got 10 of those series.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to want to add 11 and 12 counting the tournament. And then you only have 2 kind of tune-ups and let your guys play and figure out who can do what and check out your pitch. I just think most coaches are not willing to do that. Now, maybe instead of a tournament, I wouldn't mind seeing like a home-and-home series against some baseball power every year, but it just seems like everybody's kind of going away from that.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, especially with A&M being in the SEC, I think you get all the tournament help you need, when in terms of building a resume. Same kind of deal with basketball and baseball. So I'm not surprised that we don't see too much of that too often.
Yeah.
And, let's hit a
just
quick break
quickly,
here, and then on the other side, we
Nick
will wrap
Savage.
things up for the day and get some closing thoughts on hoops and baseball and all that fun stuff. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers.
see the new neural pathway.
Welcome back in. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Final segment of the program here on a Friday ahead of a busy Aggie sports weekend. Obviously got the Aggie baseball series against Elon. Big Aggie basketball game coming up tomorrow morning. Aggie softball's doing their thing out in Florida, currently up on UCF, I believe. But Billy, Dan Campbell helping out the Aggies, right?
Why does our coffee cup say Slay on them?
I wonder who had, I wonder who that could have been, who constantly says
Thank you for the coffee and the medicine ball thing, but I don't know why it says Slay. Oh, happy day, Slay. Well, whatever.
Thank you, Allie.
Good vibe.
Very nice, Allie.
Yeah, going and getting Tashard Choice from Texas. I think Dan's fired up about what he was able to do with this coaching staff. I know he also got I think he took a D-line coach from Tampa, which you think about Todd Bowles and that Tampa defense and what they've done. So I think he's fired up about the hires. Losing Aaron Glenn obviously hurts. OC-wise, I think they went out in Denver and got the QB's coach that comes from the exact same tree. So I know he's fired up about the staff. And Choice is a nice cherry on top there. He's really good running backs coach. I was impressed with what he did at Texas the last few years. I had some Longhorns tell me, well, our running backs weren't that good this year, but I'm going, they were pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to say, they were pretty good here.
But also, like, to me, people that really know that team and most of those fans would tell you, yeah, they lost first of all, they lost Jonathan Brooks to the NFL. Then they lost Baxter, who was going to be the replacement. They lost him due to injury. And then they lost another talented young guy. So they were ravaged by injury. And what they were able to do with Blue and Wisner, I thought was pretty good. And he also recruits at an elite level. So not that you're recruiting in the NFL, but I posed the question yesterday. Most people handled it well, some did not. They lost a couple of really good coaches.
I was going to ask you
Gideon
about that,
and
yeah.
Choice. And I do like the guy they hired in place of Gideon was actually somebody that Elko looked at on his first staff out of Rutgers. Orphe, I believe is his name. Some North Shore ties and Houston ties. But every time you lose coaches, it's a chance to get better or worse. And you don't know till you know. It's staff chemistry, it's caliber of coaching, its ability to recruit players, its ability to get through to players. I think a lot of people heard that or hear that, and they immediately get defensive and think I'm saying that Texas is going to get worse. Why don't you hear that and think you can get better?
Mm-hmm.
Tashard Choice is a great running backs coach. Maybe go find a better one. They were crying years ago when they lost Stan Drayton, and yes, I've seen that happen here many times. People forget. Like I started off watching R.C. Slocum lose great coaches and use that as a chance to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that possibility, but again, like when you lose coaches and you start losing them, it's like there is opportunity for slip back. So you need to make sure you make the right hires, and it's just interesting with a team that high. I say the same thing about Ohio State. I will say it. I don't tweet it and write about it because cover the SEC, cover the state of Texas, but Ohio State's lost a bunch of coaches, or not a bunch, but I mean they lost Chip
coaches.
Kelly and their decent Knowles, who are two. I mean that was the best coordinator duo I think this year in college football, and Knowles goes to a rival in Penn State, and Chip Kelly, takes his act to the NFL. So it's like. They hired, ironically enough, they hired Matt Patricia, who I got to spend some time with and know in New Orleans this week and talk football with him for a long time. He had some great Aggie stories. I told one with RC, but like Ty Warren, Bethel Johnson, Ray Mickens, all those guys were there at New England when he was there. So they hired him. Tremendous NFL resume. He hasn't coached college football. I mean, maybe he did early on in his career, but it's been forever. So say the same thing about Ohio State. How can Ryan Day replace those guys? I think if you're Texas, and we're talking about them, they are conference, and more importantly, a recruiting rival. And that's where I think Gideon and Choice were really freaking good. They really were, based on everything people have said on the trail. But their big three, I think, are Flood, Banks, and obviously Kwiatkowski. Those are the ones that if you start seeing those guys move, that's when I think you go, man, they have a chance to slip back, to the pack a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Billy, about 3 minutes left or so here. I guess final closing thoughts on the Arkansas game, just the importance of this one and what it means to the Aggies going forward.
Oh, just like I said earlier, you're just trying to fill time now, aren't you?
Just trying to get us to the finish line here.
It's a big one, dude. Like, look at the rest. So games like Arkansas and Vandy at home are, when you look at the road games, Mississippi State, Florida, you look at your other home games, Tennessee and Auburn. Those are 4 brutally tough games. Mm-hmm. So games like LSU on the road, Arkansas and Vandy at home, you need to get those. None of those are givens. You look at what Vandy's done to some teams this year. You look at what Arkansas's done of late. So it's a big challenge this weekend. But I think if they can win it and ride that that long winning streak into Starkville, you saw them do it last weekend in Missouri. They could go up there and steal one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they stole one in Norman, they stole one at Mizzou. I think they could do it at Mississippi State too, especially if they have a lot of momentum.
Absolutely. Billy, thank you so much for coming in, and hope you enjoy a busy sports weekend for Texas A&M. Thank you to all our guests who joined us today. John Nabors, Roy Philpott, had the baseball bunch in here, Brawny, Richard, and Scott Clendenin. Of course, Billy. And there's more sports talk coming up on the other side. The Louis Bellina Show up after this. He'll preview opening day, Aggie basketball, all that fun stuff. Check out the TexAgs YouTube channel, TexAgs.com. If you need more content, plenty of preview content for both Aggie basketball and Aggie baseball. So make sure you check all of that out. I've been Nick Savage filling in for David Nuno. He'll be back on Monday. And again, thanks so much for joining us today. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Garner Jewelers.